Welcome to the first of what I hope are many Lunch and Learn virtual meetings in the Teacher Bordered Classroom series here at the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio. I'm Stephanie DeMichele, and I have spent 23 years developing new ways to do old things, and the last 12 months supporting teachers as they shouldered that task as well. All information from today will be available via a Wakelet board that I have curated, and you can get all of the information there. And of course, if you have your phone handy, you can quickly go ahead and snap a pic now, hit the pause button, whatever you need to do. I should also take this opportunity to mention that because this Lunch and Learn is designed to be a quick learning opportunity, delivered in 15 minutes or less, we will not have time or opportunity for question and answer. However, I do offer free virtual coaching sessions and office hours, and the link to that information will be available in the Wakelet board as well. So let's get started. It has been a year of extremes. Distance learning, online learning, hybrid learning, remote learning, whatever you called it, it challenged us. But that's what learning is supposed to do. It's supposed to challenge and make us better. And so, in addition to supporting teachers this last year, I've also been researching the big questions, like what worked, what didn't. Most importantly, what did we learn to do better moving forward? And here's what I found after all my research. 3 educators with very solid advice who inspired, informed, and impressed, and I hope you find them useful too. First up is Dr. Catlin Tucker, a best-selling author and keynote speaker who has written a series of best-selling books on blended learning, and you can find her at catlintucker.com. Another inspiration, Jennifer Gonzalez, is a former National Board certified teacher who now runs a successful website, and you can find her over at cultofpedagogy.com. And finally, Samantha Pack has almost a decade of experience with middle and high school English. I found all of these wonderful educators on Twitter. I encourage you to follow them. Now let's hear what each has to say about what distance learning best practices we need to keep when we're back in school. On New Year's Eve 2020, Tucker published a post entitled Farewell 2020 Lessons Learned. In it, she shares 8 insights about supporting teachers and students within a variety of teaching and learning landscapes. Number 1, relationships. Tucker proposes that the foundation for teaching and learning is based solely on relationships. And I maintain that the fun activities that we use during pandemic teaching, such as online icebreakers, daily dedication, 2-word check-ins, scavenger hunts, would you rather, all of those things should still have a place at the start of our classrooms because life at its core is about relationships. So let's keep those, think about how a regular classroom works. Get in, sit down, take out your pen and pencil, pen and paper, do the bell ringer. There's not a lot of sense for that building of relationships. So that is definitely something we want to keep in mind as we move forward. Blended learning. Catlin Tucker is the guru. If you are unfamiliar with blended learning, I strongly suggest you go to her website. But as we know, providing a one-size-fits-all experience doesn't work in any learning landscape. Blended learning makes it easy to personalize learning for individual students, and it shifts control from the teacher to the learning. So, we use a lot of blended learning during pandemic teaching, virtual station rotations, playlists, choice boards, hyperdocs. Those things honored individual student learning journeys, and we should continue to do so in the face-to-face classroom. Self-directed learning. We have discovered that students can be free-range chickens, and we should let them. They don't need to be continuously monitored to do the work. And honestly, we didn't get into teaching to be supervisors and just graders of papers. So we can trust our capable and curious learners, and we should allow them. We gave them opportunities to be self-paced. Let's keep that up. Student feedback. It is a two-way street. We only think of feedback in terms of assessments, and we can learn so much from students' perspectives and experiences. So for example, I know a lot of teachers who used Google Forms at the beginning of class, at the end of class, at the end of a week to say, hey, what worked? What didn't? What can we do better? Teachers used recorded and live video check-ins to connect in a virtual environment. Valuing student feedback in a face-to-face setting is just as important. Make learning social. Kids missed so much social learning, the recess, the hall, passing each other in the hallways, lunchroom time. Our desks may be in rows, in the face-to-face classroom, but that shouldn't impede the necessary conversations and collaboration that takes place in a learning community. Without a social element, learning feels static and learners feel isolated. We also need, as teachers, to find balance. Every teacher I know has worked harder in the last year than ever before. Hopefully we made the technology work for us in that time. A lot of us had to learn things we never knew how to do. And hopefully we've discovered that we can work smarter, not harder, with the technology. And that technology still has very much an important place in our face-to-face classrooms. And allowing for student agency. Our students, think about it, spend a good part of their day having decisions made for them. That has had a devastating impact on student motivation. Studies show that engagement increases, that the more choices students get to make. So as we design our lessons, let's put ourselves in our students' shoes. What decisions do they get to make about how to complete an assignment? What decisions do they get to make about what tools to use to show what they know? And finally, incorporate problem or project-based learning, whatever you want to call it. The world is our curriculum. There are plenty of global situations that students can offer right now, all while applying content skills that they've learned. I highly recommend going to pblworks.org to get some ideas. But PBL can offer a unique opportunity to engage students in real-world learning, more engagement, more motivation, more learning. Okay, that's it for Catlin Tucker. Last month, I had the distinct opportunity to attend the CUE online conference, and Jennifer Gonzalez was the opening keynote speaker. The following ideas are from that keynote, and it was called No More Easy Button, a suggested approach to teaching in a post-pandemic world. In preparation for this keynote, Gonzalez asked the Twitterverse for their takeaways about teaching. And so these are some of her ideas. So first off, lesson design has to be about less fluff, more hands-on, more collaboration, more pre-recorded content to multiply ourselves as teachers. These lesson design ideas that Gonzalez proposes allow teachers to be facilitators and coaches and not traffic cops. When it comes to assessment, I think we learned to be kinder and gentler this past year with fluid deadlines, which is really good because if at first you don't succeed, we should be afforded the opportunity to try again, except for some odd reason when it comes to assessments. It's a one and done, here's your grade. Additionally, these assessment ideas go a long way in not only ensuring successful learning outcomes, but they also build a community of more trust and less gotcha. So again, more feedback, fewer grades, more do-overs, retakes, iterations, more fluid deadlines, and using more open resources during, assessments. There's no reason students should be able to look things up. It is a Googleable world. And I think research skills are a great skill to show. And when it comes to inclusivity, like we know, as Tucker avowed, a one-size-fits-all approach to teaching abandons a lot of kiddos by the wayside. So believe it or not, there were plenty of students who thrived with remote learning and plenty of teachers who nailed it as well. As such, it would be really promising to see schools take this into account and offer options for learners. And think about it, in the classroom, how could we differentiate learning for our introverts who have to come back to the classroom but feel a little uncomfortable about it? What are ways we can differentiate things for them? And finally, of course, let's not forget that as difficult, draining, and demoralizing as pandemic teaching could be, we held on to each other. And that's what's going to propel us into the new now, relationship building. We need to keep good relationships with our students. So let's take a look at building true classroom communities where we do build in time for fun. Think about all we had Spirit Week and Pajama Day and game nights with families. We have to make sure to build in time for fun, reconsider our punitive measures, and truly connect with our students. All right, now that's it for Jennifer Gonzalez, and on to our third candidate. After a year-long crash course in digital tools and remote teaching, Samantha Pack, in an article for Edutopia, reflected on what's going to stick in her brick and mortar classroom. So the idea of rethinking the daily agenda. Typically, we put a static daily agenda written on the board, but during pandemic teaching, we kept that digital agenda. And PAC advocates for that digital living agenda, one that's updated every day because it supports self-paced learning. It allows students to move on when they're ready, and rather than waiting for everybody to finish. Hyperlinks, the day's outline, the rationale, homework, everything should be included in that daily agenda, the living digital agenda. Recreating the chat. That Zoom chat was really enlightening for a lot of teachers. We got to hear from quieter students. We got to assess understanding quickly. We solicited quick feedback, and we were able to check in one-on-one. PAC advocates that we keep that back channel engagement going in our face-to-face classrooms with things like Mentimeter or a simple Google Docs Q&A, where students can respond to each other. A Google Classroom question feature where students can interact. Again, the back channel engagement. These things make it routine for students to engage non-verbally with the material and with their classmates. We also need to build in and leverage mindful breaks. Remote learning has made breaks non-negotiable. We have to have breaks. And so when we're face-to-face, make those things a given, especially after very long instructional blocks. And then PAC goes further and says when we transition back from a group break, again, let's build community. Take that opportunity to ask students a quick icebreaker or getting to know you questions, or even better, play a brief round of content-specific trivia. Break rooms, breakout rooms. Remember the breakout rooms? Discussions became intimate. Students got to speak multiple times. Conversations gained momentum. And when you return to the physical classrooms, this is a great idea. Assign half of the class a very quiet, independent task. Let them put in their earbuds. Let them work independently. And they can complete that task while the other half engages in discussion. And then switch. Keep that breakout room mode going. Student feedback, again, remote learning found many teachers wanted to know what was going on with the kiddos on the screen. And so what better way to send the message that we value students, their agency, their independence, than by asking how it's going, regardless of learning context. We just have to ask. So I think these are the three big, there were a lot of ideas I just threw at you, or these three women there, but they're great ideas. But I think if you take away anything from today, these three big ideas. One, relationships and community should be a priority when we return face to face. Let's remember that we were all in this together. Let's still be in it together. Feedback. Learning is a two-way street. Students are stakeholders. We should ask students how they're enjoying their learning. And it's like customer service. We want to get feedback. How are we doing? How can we do better? And finally, let's provide for more student agency so students can pursue learning at their own pace and path. It is entirely doable. Here is something to think about as we move forward. I think pandemic teaching taught us to give up control. We have no control. We really, as much as and teachers are control freaks, but it is time to let go. Really, literally, time to let our students be free-range hens. Time for the teacher-bordered classroom where we get to be a coach, a facilitator. We get to have fun again. All right, I think it could work. And finally, because this is a lunch and learn, I'm including a fun lunch recipe. This is one of my favorite lunches. I love mason jar salads. I've got a link to this in the Wakelet board. So if you want to do some meal prepping next week for your lunch, here you go. And finally, again, if you need anything, first link is to my link tree with all my socials. So you can contact me at any time. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. The second link is for the Wakelet board that has all of the information that you would require. If you don't feel like typing anything in, take your phone, go ahead and scan those QR codes. And again, I'm Stephanie DeMichele. It has been an absolute pleasure to be here for the Lunch and Learn. Good luck with your teacher-bordered classroom.